It's time for Comeback Sports with Brandon, the coach Perry, and Pat, the shot caller Flaherty. Here we go.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Comeback Sports. I'm your host, Pat, the shot caller Flaherty, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Brandon, the coach Perry. Brandon, another week in sports, another crazy week in sports. A lot going on, my friend. How you doing?
I'm actually doing great, man. What's up, Pat? How are you doing, my friend? And shout out to all the viewers out there as well.
Yeah, we got a lot of great viewers out there. I'm doing good too, buddy. We had a great caller last week in James Merlin, and a lot of folks overseas are checking out a lot of our videos. We really appreciate that. We want to really thank the audiences overseas, especially, and the audiences here in the good old US of A also, who are checking into our show. Our views are going up, our subscriptions are going up. The more you can spread the word about our show, the better. It's certainly going to help us, and it's certainly going to help our show, and we really appreciate all the loyal listeners out there. Once again, as always, folks, 10 topics tonight in our sports talk show with a lot of different sports to cover, as usual. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see our Twitter handle, so make sure you follow us on Twitter. If you're watching this on YouTube, you've already found the Comeback Sports channel. But make sure you subscribe to the Comeback Sports channel, and then every time we post a video, it's going to go straight to your feed. You can just click on your Comeback Sports subscription and watch any Comeback Sports video you want, whether it's a live show, one of the segments that our great producer Ben Kudo cuts up afterwards, and you just want to watch one of the segments and check that out. All that stuff will be fed to your Comeback Sports channel, so make sure you check that out right there. We're going to kick things off here this week with the tournament that's happening tomorrow. It's the British Open here in 2021 at the Royal St. George's Golf Club in Sandwich, England. It's the last, they changed the major schedule this year, so the British Open is now the last major of the season. It's normally the PGA Championship in August, but the British this year, because the PGA was in May, is now in the last one in July. Always going to be a lot of fun. The British Open seems to always be a little crazy because the weather over there is always so unpredictable. We're going to get that again this week. Brennan, what do you think about the British Open this week, and who you got as one of your favorites to win the British here in 2021?
Well, first off, for our fans out there, we're both wearing green today. That's by mistake. We did not plan that.
This was not planned. We did not put in the same closet. So let's
exactly. If we plan something, it'll be a lot better than that. I can guarantee. Right. But I will say, man, it's going to be lit in the UK this week, because not only is it the Open this week, okay, and I know it's not one of our topics, but I'm a big F1 fan. The British Grand Prix is also this weekend. So I'm looking forward to seeing what those British drivers can do at the British Grand Prix, especially Lewis Hamilton. But between the British Grand Prix and the Open in 1 week in the UK, I'm sure that's just an amazing sporting event weekend for the UK and for all their fans, and not only for them, but for us as well. So I know the Open is really one of the best tournaments in the world, and obviously it's one of the 4 majors. So everybody's looking to get their hands on one of those titles and one of those cups. And honestly, there's so many people that you can look to that could have a good tournament. And it's often the dark horse. It's often the people that nobody really picks that goes and wins these big tournaments. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm really excited just because, like you said, the weather is always a challenge. These courses are some of the oldest courses in the world, some of the most challenging courses in the world. Okay. And obviously in the UK and in the Open, those deep bunkers are something that we're always used to seeing. And it's one of those things where, man, if you get in one of those deep bunkers, it could ruin your whole tournament just in that one hit. And for you guys out there, if you've never played golf, there's nothing like that here in America, at least that I've seen, as far as how deep some of these bunkers are in the UK. So you really have to be a skilled and talented golfer, along with how long the rough is going to be. So it's always one of these games where you really have to be accurate off the tee to be able to give yourself a chance to win this tournament. So I don't know, man, a really tough call on who's going to win. So I don't know. I guess Xander Schauffele has always seemed to put himself up there on the board. I think he's just yet to really put himself in the moment to win the big one. So I guess I'm rooting for Xander Schauffele, obviously an American. And then I'm also rooting for Brooks Koepka. He's still keeping that rivalry with him and Bryson DeChambeau going. And obviously this is a little side topic, but I don't know if you've seen his interview, Pat. Bryson said he'd be willing to play with Brooks on the Ryder Cup team. And then they went to Brooks, and Brooks said, you know what, if he's on the team, whatever, I'll play with him, but just do not pair me with him. So it's one of those things where, like, Brooks is still not feeling it. So I've got to keep picking Brooks, man, because he's the man right now. I'm really enjoying Brooks Koepka.
Some folks are saying that feud kind of doesn't matter or it's manufactured. I love it. Golf needs this, and it's great. We've talked about that many times. So I love the fact that those guys are kind of still going at it and keep chirping at each other. Even if they don't necessarily hate each other, they aren't comfortable around each other, which is a really good thing. Too many athletes today, I think, are too buddy-buddy, especially on the playing surface or court or whatever.
Agreed.
It doesn't matter, but I love it. Once again, this British Open, I think the last time I was at this course was 2011, and Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson tied for second in that one. So you see DJ, he's such a good ball striker, very talented. So the thing with Johnson this week is if he, can put it all together and stay consistent, I think he's certainly got a chance. The thing is with him, if he kind of goes off the rails, especially early, he's not necessarily going to come back. He sometimes just kind of loses it at certain points in a tournament if he struggles for a few holes or even for, the front nine or the back nine on one of the early rounds especially. So with the bad weather that's supposed to come in, that could happen to some guys. So we'll see how they handle it. We'll see if DJ has to handle that at some point. You mentioned the bunkers and Phil Mickelson, who's unbelievable with his short game out of the bunkers. So, he might be able to put something together after picking up that PGA championship win not a couple months ago. We'll see if he can, get another major this season. I think it'll be tough for a guy his age to get two majors in 1 year, but we've seen crazier things happen. So we'll see if Phil can put it together this week. But the guy I think is going to win is Jordan Spieth. I know I've been kind of rooting for Jordan this whole year. He's playing well this year. He hasn't won any majors yet. He hasn't won a ton of tournaments. He's won this year, but he's playing really well statistically. Strokes gained, tee to green. He's been really good. He's actually statistically been better this year than he was back in 2017 when he won the British Open. So I think Spieth is a guy that you can look out for this week with nasty weather. There's going to be holes where you're going to have to scramble a lot. Spieth can do that. If Spieth gets his putter going like he always does when he's playing well, I think he has as good a chance as anybody. And the other guy I think that has a great chance, he's always hanging around in majors, especially recently at the U.S. Open, still wasn't able to get it done. But Louis Oosthuizen is always good on majors, and then he's always good at the British Open because of his iron play and how good he is as a ball striker. He doesn't bomb it down the fairway off the tee, but his ball striking, his consistency, he's a guy that I think could definitely win the British Open as well. I think for a guy like Louis, especially like his first major, I gotta think it's gonna be the British Open. That's gonna be the one that gets him there if he ever does win one. So I would say either Jordan Spieth or Louis Oosthuizen are my picks for the British Open here in 2021.
Yeah, I think those are both great picks, especially Louis. Like you said, he just seems to always put himself in the position to have a chance to win, especially on Sunday at these big major tournaments. And quickly before we go on, let's not forget that Bubba Watson, unfortunately, is ruled out due to COVID restrictions and being in close contact with somebody that tested positive for COVID. So unfortunately for Bubba Watson, he won't have a chance to go and go for that title. But that would have been another guy that I think you could put in there if he was being able to play in this tournament, because he hits it so long. And when he dials it in, he can be long and accurate. And that is perfect in some of these UK courses. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll really be looking to see, especially who can get hot and if they can carry that over into rounds 3 and 4. I think that'll be huge. But let's move on to topic number 2 tonight. And it just seems like the Les Miles era and Kansas football never ends. I mean, the guy got fired months ago, and we're still hearing about things coming out of his program that were just not good. And then this is just another one, a big story coming out just a few days ago.
Yeah, that's right. So Caperton Humphrey, who was a player, I believe, in 2017 and 2018, came out and said that the University of Kansas football program offered him $50,000 to not talk about some harassment when he was with the football program. And some of this harassment, you know, you and I played high school football, like guys rib each other. There's even some hazing, and some hazing is very playful. It's not necessarily that big a deal. And there's other hazing that's very serious, and it's abuse, and it shouldn't happen. So you start, you know, as a former high school football player, I kind of went to this, okay, let's what are the details of this whole story? And then you hear some of the things that happened with this kid, where he got in a fight with like 3 other guys. And then at one point, some of the players loosened the lug nuts on the wheel of his car, and he starts driving away, and he can see in his rear view mirror, or his side view mirror, that one of the wheels it looks like it's going to fall off. It's like, how dangerous is that? I mean, this is abuse, man. So this guy faced some of this, and then he's offered $50,000 to keep his mouth shut. And it's like, a couple things. In this day and age, you know this is going to get out. If you're Kansas, or whoever instigated this, which I got to think is Les Miles, you know this is going to get out. So why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I mean, this is, it's just unfathomable to me that a major college university that prides itself on, you know, tradition, and their basketball program is huge. That's their big money maker there, even though, you know, football brings in money. But Kansas's football teams haven't been great these past few years, no matter who they bring in as coach, whether it's Les Miles or Charlie Weiss or whoever. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just do the right thing. You know, I just don't understand the motivation for this, other than the fact that it's wrong to bribe a kid. You know this is going to come out. Second of all, like you mentioned, Les Miles, you know, whenever one of these coaches who have all these scandals, and where there's smoke, there's fire with some of these coaches, once they get fired, you know, that's never the end of the story. There's always something that comes out later. Even the coach might even feed some stories to some of the local press if they feel wronged by the university. So it's not just Les Miles. I'm sure, you know, we'll see if anything happens to the AD. We'll see if anything happens to the compliance director. We'll see if anything happens to football operations. I mean, we'll see, you know, who else is involved in this. But once you start peeling that onion, a lot comes out of it. So we'll see who's totally responsible for this. But this is crazy.
No, I agree. And I could be wrong, but I think they've moved on from the athletic director shortly after Les Miles as well.
You're right.
But I could be wrong with that. But I think they were kind of both fired in the same breath. But I'll have to double check on that. But hey, University of Kansas, if you want to pay us $50,000, we'll take this video down. I'll have producer Ben drop it out right now, and you won't even have the bad publicity. But it's going to cost you another $50,000, unfortunately, because you just want to keep paying your way out of problems anyway. So if you want to pay us, I'd be down for that. We can split it 3 ways, because obviously there's producer Ben as well in the background. Great job, producer Ben. You deserve some of that Kansas money. I think it's one of those things where, man, yeah, it just keeps coming out. And honestly, I've got to question what he did at LSU now, too. I'm sorry, because so many things have come out at Kansas. You usually don't change as a person in your ways, okay, especially as a coach. I'm a coach. I should know. I'm telling you, I really want to know what went on behind the scenes at LSU now, too. And here's the thing, because he was even more successful at LSU, you might not get to hear that stuff. And that's the crazy part right now, is that a lot of that stuff was probably swept under the rug even more so at LSU. Maybe people were paid off even more money, so they're not coming forward now. But at Kansas, for Caperton Humphrey, it just sounded like it was a nightmare going on for this young man, and it shouldn't have been, man. I was honestly disgusted to read this article. You would think going to play Division I football at a big school like that would be a dream come true. And you'd be able to enjoy it, enjoy the perks of being a D1 football player, and get a great education, and then move on with your life like 90% of NCAA athletes do. But this young man was just facing adversity from his own teammates every single day. And like you said, certainly there are rifts on teams. If you've never played on a team, you're not saying you have to like everybody. That certainly does not happen, but you have to respect each other. And especially if you're working towards the same goal, you have to learn to work together. It just did not seem like this was going on there. And I blame the coaches. I blame the coaches for not having it and not having the right chemistry around this program and trying to sweep things under the rug. Another thing in the article they said was that, this was like 4 or 5 incidents, and he kept trying to go to his head coach, Les Miles. Les Miles often would turn him away, not wanting to hear it. So that's another disappointing thing to read. And then one time he said he wanted to have them settle their differences on the practice field. That's so old school, like 1950, 1940s football coaching. That's ridiculous. Settle it on the practice field. Clearly, these are issues. At one point, Humphrey said that he thought one of his teammates had a gun when he entered his apartment. So he felt threatened for his life. His family felt threatened for his life at this point. So this was big. This was much bigger. The university, instead of stepping in and fixing it, they really decided that they were going to pay this off and sweep it underneath the rug. I wish it came out a lot sooner, but I'm sure within this $50,000, he probably had to keep his mouth shut for a short amount of time. Or who knows? Who knows? Maybe he's breaking an agreement at this point to talk about it. But I know his family's had enough, and they're the ones that really want to talk about it. And I don't blame them at all. But also in the article, one of the things that I wanted to see was who the 4 teammates were that were actually making his life a living nightmare. And they did not name them at all. Okay, we're not talking about high school players. We're talking about college players that are over the age of 18. Some of these guys are probably 23 or 24 at this point. I think they need to be named at this point. So hopefully, if you're out there, you're watching this first, people, give us a subscribe, give us a like. But if you agree with us, dig in there, man. Internet, do your job. Dig in there, find out who these 4 players are so we can shame them, because this is just a ridiculous story, and I don't think we've seen the end of it.
You wonder if some of those players are now in the NFL. I think that would be interesting to see, too. And if any of those players are in the NFL, if they're smart, they'd come out right away and just say, I was one of those guys. I was in a you-know-what hole, and I'm sorry, and it was stupid, and, I'll do anything to, and the first guy to do that out of the 4 is going to be looked at as the mature, yep. He's become a better person. And then the last guy is going to look like an idiot. So either one of them comes out, or all 4 of them come out and say, hey, it was us, and we're sorry, and, we'll do anything to make it up to him, and we were idiots back then. So, but you mentioned, they threatened his 15-year-old brother and his dad. I mean, the whole thing is just, I don't know why guys get off on that. I think it's crazy. So that story's going to have a lot more to it, I think, as the days go and weeks and months go on. So we'll see what happens there. We're going to move on to topic number 3, and Euro 2020. Well, it's technically in 2021, but Euro 2020, because they didn't have it last year because of the pandemic. A lot happened in this game. This obviously was a very dramatic game between England and Italy. And a lot of folks are talking about the red card that was given out to Giorgio Chiellini, who dragged down, Bukayo Saka from England. And, a lot of folks are asking, does this warrant a red card? Brandon, what do you think about this whole incident?
Well, that's the thing. He was only given a yellow card. Like, I'm outraged by this, honestly. I act like that clearly was a moment of that changed the game, right? He was about to go on a breakaway there with the ball. Chiellini knew it. He reached out, grabbed him by the collar, and took him down. That's like equivalent to a horse collar tackle in football. And that is an automatic personal foul, 15-yard penalty. If you do that a second time, you're dismissed from the game. However, this is soccer. This is the other version of football. This is international football where there is no full contact. So on a play like that, you would think that should have been an automatic red card, okay? I really feel like the referee dropped the ball here and kind of choked in the moment because it was such a big game that he didn't want to dismiss one of the players and now have it being 11-10. And that changes the game. Well, too bad. Chiellini was the dummy that made that decision to reach out and grab a player like that and drag him down. He could have injured him. All right. And he definitely changed the outcome of the game. Every time I watch that, I get so outraged. Honestly, I'm not a violent person, but if I saw this Italian gentleman, Chiellini, I would want to drag him down like this many of times. If I see you in the airport, Chiellini, I'm dragging you down on sight because this is absolutely ridiculous. This should have been a red card. He should have been thrown out of the game, and there's no excuse. This guy's a veteran. He's been playing international soccer for a long time. He's played in many of World Cups for Italy. This is absolutely disgusting. And if you're an Italian fan, you should be disgusted by it too. And if you're not speaking up about it, you look like an idiot in that you just wanted to win the trophy. Honestly, we're going to talk about England's woes and how they lost the game next. But this is a completely different topic. I think Chiellini is an idiot, a fool. He deserved to be thrown out of that game. And honestly, I'm not a fan of him going forward. I think this guy's a clown.
Yeah, I'm not a soccer aficionado. I've never been a huge soccer fan. I do like watching the World Cup. I didn't pay enough attention to Euro 2020. I have seen all these highlights and everything, but I can't stand in soccer when guys stuff. And then you see something like this, which is clearly a blatant foul on Chiellini. He clearly did this, like you mentioned, horse collar. It's a horse collar. It's exactly what it is. We've seen it in football. But I don't know what the ref was missing here. But I think you said it best, Brandon. I think they were afraid to make it an 11-on-10 finals match in Euro 2020. So I think that's exactly what happened.
I'm going to go even further and call Chiellini out for being a racist. Because I honestly think if this is any other player, he doesn't even think about reaching out to grab him like that. Like you said, in soccer, you don't do that. Your hands are invisible. They're literally generally tied behind your back. Any kind of play with your hands is a foul. It's illegal. So for him to reach out like this, you could even see, producer Ben, pull it up again. You can see on his face how angered he is by the guy going by him. And he clearly goes out with the intent to grab him and drag him down. I'm telling you. And like I said, we're going to talk about the racism that was even shown towards these players, the black English players going forward in the next topic. But I think this is on top of it. And I don't think enough people are talking about this drag down and how it should have been a red card. But man, like the title says, a Bush League play by a Bush League player. Chiellini, man, you've got something coming to you. You know, there's a lot of slide tackles that happen in football. Hopefully your knee is the next target.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, what if there's any fallout here. I mean, he didn't show any remorse afterwards too. It almost seemed like he was laughing about it. I'm like, you almost like seriously injured that guy, and you just have no type of like looking back. Sometimes when a play like that happens to, no matter what sport it is, as soon as it happens, you realize I just made a massive mistake. And if he had done that and then went up to Saka and just been like, dude, I'm sorry, I lost my head, I apologize. If that happened, then I think people would be reacting to this a little bit better. It still doesn't change the fact that the call should have been made, but at least Chiellini would have a little bit more respect from everybody, from fans and from people of sports fans who have watched this clip. So I don't get it. I'm not a fan of that guy either.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, like, I wouldn't have called him out for that. I would have had no reason to think any more malice. Like you said, if he quickly was like, oh, man, I go up to Saka, went to go pick him up and showed some remorse to the ref, being like, I did not mean to do that. I don't know why I grabbed him. That didn't happen. He was clearly just happy to get back on defense. He meant to do it. There was so much intent there, and you can see it on his face, man. I've seen it. Trust me. So, yeah, this is something that I know I won't shut up about it. So hopefully people will talk about it going forward. But it definitely should have been a red card and a big missed call in a big game. But let's move on to topic number 4 and Wembley woes. Wembley woes, and this was kind of part of it, honestly, for England. Saka was about to go on a breakaway there, maybe would have scored the game-winning goal, gets dragged down by a chump Chiellini. Then England goes on to lose in PKs. Okay, so that's one issue. Another issue with the Wembley woes is the security concerns. Fans were rushing the gates before the game. Obviously, a big game for England at home there, fans wanting to see. But, man, they were overwhelming security at multiple gates to push through to get to see the game for free. So they needed clearly more security. And then on top of that, Lando Norris, the big F1 star, the British star, got robbed of his custom McLaren watch outside in the parking lot right near his car. So it's just like, man, that's why I clearly wanted to call this Wembley woes, because there was just so many things going on wrong for England in this Euro finals match.
Yeah, I mean, you think about Wembley, and it's this historic stadium, and the Euro Cup is like this. There's so much pageantry. It's this big celebrated, tournament. You have the royal family there, who I don't care about them. They do nothing. But they're there. It's a huge thing, and for whatever reason, I think it's the England soccer fans who think England's the epicenter of soccer. You guys haven't won a World Cup since 1966, so thanks. But, they think that they're owed something. I think they're almost like Montreal Canadiens fans who think they invented hockey. So, there you go. So, it's just crazy that Wembley, that might be one of the most famous sports arenas in the world. It's more famous than Yankee Stadium. It's more famous than Fenway Park. It's more famous than Soldier Field in Chicago or Madison Square Garden probably. So to not have enough security there to me is crazy. And then like you mentioned, Lando Norris getting robbed essentially, and the British Grand Prix this weekend. So a British driver driving for McLaren, he's about to drive in the British Grand Prix, and some most likely British soccer fans. I mean, who knows where the fans were from that robbed him, but most likely British soccer fans then rob him. I mean, what is going on? I think, I hate to keep using this excuse with everything. I know people have been bottled up for a year and a half with the pandemic, but that doesn't give you credence to just go out and just terrorize wherever you're from. I mean, it's just crazy how fans think that this is open season and just be, bleep holes, like I said in a couple of topics earlier. I don't understand the motivation behind this either. I mean, you mentioned too some of the racist comments that some of these England soccer players have faced over the last few days, including Saka and the two other players whose names escape me. I apologize, but there's just this whole thing where all these British soccer fans, and some of the racist comments came from other countries too, not just England, but it's just all of a sudden sports fans think that it's back in 1960 and you can just say whatever you want and act like a jerk at a game and it's just going to be fine. I mean, things are changing now. I remember being at Fenway and, guys were getting fights in the bleachers and stuff. It's not like that anymore. They changed because it was a bad business model. Now, families can go to Fenway and it's not as violent and it's not as crazy and it's better for business. And it's like that at Gillette Stadium too. Foxborough Stadium used to be, where the Patriots played, used to be, guys are getting fights all the time and throwing beer bottles and stuff like that. Doesn't happen at Gillette anymore. You do that, you lose your season tickets. End of story. So, I know this is an international competition. It's not like it's season tickets for fans, but there's cameras everywhere too. So you're an idiot if you do something stupid like that. They're going to find you. You're going to never be able to go to a game at Wembley again. Onward and onward and onward. It's just a dumb thing to do.
Honestly, in this clip that's up right now, one of the stewards in orange, he's tripping people as they come through. That's what Chiellini needs. We need to sick that steward on Chiellini and put a slide tackle on him. I'm sure you guys have seen it because that's another clip, this big clip, because this steward was going over the top and basically assaulting people as they were trying to rush into the game. And I get it. They're technically breaking the law. They're trying to see the game for free, but that doesn't give you the right to assault them as well. So there's just so many things going on here. And like you said, Wembley, such a historical stadium. Yeah, you had bands like the Beatles that played there, right? So it's got so much history beyond the soccer pitch that it's where was the security, man? And this is a Euro final with the home country in the final. Didn't they expect to have overwhelming crowds? I mean, somebody dropped the ball here in planning. They should have had a ton more security. And then to have Lando Norris, like you said, arguably, maybe besides Lewis Hamilton, the biggest name in F1, British name in F1 right now is Lando Norris and then George Russell. And so to have Lando Norris get robbed on the week of the British Grand Prix, at Wembley Stadium when England's playing, like you said, more than likely by some English fans. I mean, what a black eye for England and what a black eye for Wembley Stadium, to be honest. And obviously they can come back. I love England, to be honest. They're our number one ally. I love them. I would love to go there and see some of these historical stadiums and to see a British Premier League game, because I think it is the best soccer league in the world. But I think you bring up a great point with their fans. Man, like people say that Boston fans, they think we're special because we call it title town. We've won so many titles. But I think these British soccer fans, like you said, they think that they basically invented the game, that they have all the best players in the world. Okay. And they're called hooligans. They're literally called soccer hooligans. Okay. And if you haven't seen a movie, it's called, what is it? I got to look it up here again. Green Street Hooligans. Green Street Hooligans. That will tell you everything you need to know about soccer hooligans. It's basically a gang. It's almost like organized crime. So that would not shock me if it was soccer hooligans that ended up robbing Lando Norris for his $40,000 to $50,000 Richard Mille watch. And so it's one of those things where I'm glad to hear that Lando did not get hurt. He's good to go. That's the most important thing. That watch can be replaced. But like I said, how are you going to rob your own countrymen at the Euro final, such a big stage, on a world stage for your country, right? And it's like, man, there's just so many bad things going on there. And then last but certainly not least, the racism that the three black English players have faced. Obviously, they missed their penalty kicks, but that could have been anybody that missed those penalty kicks, okay? And here's the thing. We all know when it gets down to penalty kicks, you put your best players out there. You put your best players out there to take the PK. So clearly they were three of the best players. So I really don't want to hear anybody bitching. And I'm sorry, I don't even know if I can say that on here, but saying that about them missing the PKs. I'm really curious to see if Harry Kane, the captain of the team, who's white, if he had missed his PK, if he would be getting as much guff as Saka and some of these other players that are black on the British team. So it's just, I don't know, so many disappointing things on top of England losing to Italy, because I was rooting for them. I really wanted to see England bring it home and win it. But obviously that didn't happen. So it's just a lot of, like I said, a lot of disappointing factors for our friends across the pond.
Yeah, I mean, everybody keeps talking about, how dramatic the game was, everything, which is great for TV. It's great for spectators, especially, kind of like fringe soccer fans who are just kind of tuning in for this type of game and don't necessarily watch Premier League that much or some of the matches and maybe just watch the World Cup and so forth. But a lot of soccer fans are saying, this wasn't the cleanest game. This wasn't the greatest match to watch as far as the product on the pitch. So, there can be arguments made as to whether or not that's good or not for the game. But, I think this story is, more people are paying attention to this, at least in America, than they would have if it was a clean game where, England won 2-0 or something like that. So, there's a lot that can be talked about. It did seem like England, they scored that goal, I think in the first 3 minutes of the game or something like that, or the match. And then they kind of just played like
cruise control.
Katie barred the door in hockey, but like you just kind of play defensive and don't try to attack offensively. And that's what seemed to happen with them. And then they kind of lost their edge there. So very dramatic Euro 2020 final. And people are going to be talking about this for a while as well. So I'm going to move on, however, to topic number 5. Last weekend also, because this is a crazy sports weekend, UFC, massive event. Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier in the trilogy, their third match of the trilogy. But Conor McGregor, is Conor canned? Is Conor McGregor done? Because in this match, you saw it right there. He just, when he stepped back, actually broke his leg. So Conor's leg snapped there on that step back. He was done. He was getting beat by Poirier. He obviously didn't necessarily lose the fight, but he got injured, so he lost. He was not ahead. A lot of scores had it 10-8 in the round. Brian, what do you think about Conor? Is Conor done as a UFC fighter?
Well, first off, I've got to eat some crow because I picked McGregor to win, and I picked him to win by strikes, and man, was it the complete opposite of that. So obviously he lost the fight, and it was due to injury, but also you could say due to strikes there because they had to step in. But it was one of those things where, honestly, the ankle probably broke on one of the kicks. And even Poirier had said that at the end of the fight, that his ankle probably, cracked and snapped on one of the kicks. And then when he stepped back to throw that punch and put all of his weight back on it, it just finished it and snapped it for him. And then that was technically the end of the fight there. Poirier even knew it himself. He barely walked in there and kind of really wasn't even punching him, as you've seen. He knew the fight was going to be called there in seconds there. But cheers to Poirier, man. And honestly, we went against the numbers too. The numbers have it that in the trilogy fight, generally the younger man wins the third fight, and Poirier is the younger fighter. So, man, I was really going against the numbers there. I thought McGregor could put on a better show, but clearly did not. And funny to find out that producer Ben is no fan of Conor McGregor. So he really enjoyed seeing Conor get dropped like this. Had a few choice words for Conor McGregor in our pre-show meeting, which I thought was classic. But I love that, Ben. I really do. But I honestly I don't think he's done. No, I don't think he's done. I think you could even hear at the end of the fight, like he typically does, he was already marketing for another fight, saying, this is not over. This is not over. We need to fight again. So I don't know, though. It's like, will people want to pay money again to see the fourth fight between these guys? I mean, technically, you didn't really see much of a fight here because his ankle got broken. So I feel bad for you people that paid the money. And honestly, I mean, if you're subscribing to the show, I don't want to call you a dummy, but you kind of are a dummy for paying $98 for an ESPN Plus subscription. When I saw that was the fact just to watch that fight, I said, I will hard pass on this one and wait till it comes back to normal pay-per-view for like $50 or $60. But yeah, man, I don't think Conor McGregor's done. I do think he's done as far as championship contending matches right now. He's clearly going to have to work his way back up into that position. And if he can, maybe win his next 3 fights, in exciting fashion, he might quickly be able to put himself back into that talk. But right now, I sadly think his big money matches are going to be few and far right now, and he's going to have to work his way back up the ladder.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as his quality of a fighter, I think he might be, near the end as far as being a competitive UFC fighter, but he's going to get another match. He's probably going to get a few more. The guy knows how to make money. He knows how to promote himself. He knows how to hype up a fight. We were talking before our show about, all the things he was doing, talking smack to Poirier. He talked about he made up a text that Poirier's wife, he said Poirier's wife sent him a text or something to that effect, trying to motivate Poirier, trying to talk smack to him. He just knows how to do that, and he's a dink. We all know Conor McGregor's a dink. The guy, punched an old bartender who wouldn't serve him whiskey at one point or something like that. So the guy's a jerk, but he's going to get another fight because he's good at promoting himself. He's good at hyping up these fights. Everybody knows who he is. So, unfortunately for a sport where dedicated UFC fans know who the best fighters are, they love the sport more than boxing because it's more like a real street fight. They love the grappling aspect of it and the holes that a lot of these guys can do. But the best fighters don't always make the most money or aren't always in the best fights because they don't necessarily promote themselves as well enough. Dana White and UFC, they do a great job of promotion across the board. But McGregor gets all these fights because of who he is and how he can promote himself. He's a celebrity. So he's going to get another fight. Whether or not it's against Poirier, I think it will happen. I think there'll be a 4th fight. Because at some point Poirier is going to be like, there's too much money on the table for me not to do this.
Yep.
Seeing how hyped this fight was for the trilogy, and you do wonder. I think that this fight went 3 or 4 rounds, or maybe even 5. A 4th fight might have been a good option, but maybe even the fact that you didn't really know who won, even though Poirier was kicking McGregor's ass, I thought for the most part in that first round. Because it ended so early. The question is, does that mean that people are still itching for another fight between these two instead of it being more of an epic fight for the trilogy? Or, because it was, it ended in such a strange way, they just don't want to see this again, and they're sick of these two guys fighting each other because it's happened 3 times. So I think that question, is kind of unanswerable at this point. But yeah, I think McGregor's still going to get a fight. He's still going to make money, and that's what he's in for right now.
Yeah, first off, cheers to Dustin Diamond Poirier for winning the fight. And honestly, I want to see who he's fighting next, because he's looked good in these last 2 fights. I really want to see. He's a fighter that's developed in his UFC career to get to this point, and I think he's in his prime right now. So I really want to see who Dustin the Diamond's going to fight next. And I think you could see a 4th fight, because there was so much bad blood between these guys leading up to it. Obviously, McGregor, with his patented trash talk, at one point he said Dustin was married and was the husband to his wife, Jolie. And then Poirier was like, man, that trash talk is weak, man. I've heard better than that. So I loved Poirier's even response. But even Poirier said, you said you were going to, put me in a body bag here, and it got a little too personal. So I could see Poirier wanting to take on a 4th fight to maybe beat up on McGregor a little bit more. And like you said, take that big payday that obviously comes with Conor McGregor every time he fights. So I think you could see a 4th fight between these guys. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, though, because I honestly think if I'm Dustin Diamond Poirier, I'm looking to fight somebody else and maybe try to get myself in the title contention and make even bigger money there. But honestly, I think the best fighter in the world in UFC right now is Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones, obviously a different weight class, but he would put both of these guys to sleep quickly. Big shout out to Jon Jones, Johnny Bones Jones.
Bones Jones. The New England Patriots fans have liked Bones Jones too, because brother Chandler was on the Patriots for a while before he got traded to Arizona. But I think that's a good point. Yeah, Poirier. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, does Poirier want to kind of move on from Conor McGregor? He's like, I beat him in the last 2 fights. What's best for my career as far as a fighter? Do I want to keep kind of climbing the ladder of fighters and the quality of fighters in the UFC, or do I want just another big payday, and then maybe that would be, the next fight with McGregor? But the thing is, like you mentioned, McGregor, it's going to take a while for him to come back from this injury, and he's a little older now, and older athletes know it takes a little longer to recover from injuries like this. So if that's the case for McGregor, Poirier's going to have another fight before he even has a chance at fighting McGregor again. So at that point, if Poirier has another big fight, he might just say, I've had enough of McGregor. I don't need this anymore. So then maybe the fight won't happen. So that'll be interesting. It might not be till Poirier is maybe sort of on the downslope of his career where he might want to fight McGregor again, where he might need the big payday, where he might be done fighting the elite fighters in the UFC. That's going to be interesting to watch going forward.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Dustin's going to do going forward, because he's clearly, the ball's in his court right now. He's in charge, and whoever he wants to fight next, he could probably line it up. So, I mean, big shout out to him for winning both fights. Let's not forget that. And so, but I really don't think McGregor's done. He clearly has said he's not done. He said he's going to come back, and I believe he will get another fight. We'll have to see what goes on with both their careers going forward. But let's move on. Let's talk about Showtime. Showtime, Shohei Ohtani, the best player in baseball that doesn't get enough credit from anybody. Honestly, when we started talking about Shohei, it started like popping up. Everybody started talking about Shohei. So honestly, hey, we're going to keep talking about him because he's the best player in baseball. The young Japanese superstar, Shohei Ohtani. Showtime, baby. What do you got on him?
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned Shohei a lot on this show just because he's having an unbelievable season. Amazing talent. He's got 32 home runs, I believe, at the All-Star break. And we also mentioned he's been an awesome pitcher. He's got a 3.4, I believe, ERA as a starter. He's been a really good start of the All-Star game as a pitcher, along with being a positional player. And we saw him in the Home Run Derby. Didn't make it out of the first round, but he put on a show. Him and Juan Soto in the first round of the Home Run Derby. That was the funnest part of the Home Run Derby, I thought. Those two guys going at it. We saw Juan Soto, who was unbelievable in the Home Run Derby. He put up, I think, 22 homers. And then Shohei really struggled out of the gate in the Home Run Derby. And then in the last, I want to say, minute and a half, he just started hitting bombs. And when you saw him hit home runs, when I saw his swing, I'm like, there's no way that's going out. And then it was 10 rows deep at Coors Field. So it's a combination of being, in Denver where you're well above sea level, but also in the thin air up there. But also, Shohei's got easy power where he can just kind of flick his wrist and the ball leaves the yard. So certainly a superstar. Didn't necessarily play great in the All-Star game either. Wasn't the best player in the All-Star game, but the All-Star game ratings were up this year from 2019. Shohei certainly helps that. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was the MVP of the All-Star game. He had an awesome game. But Shohei's just a fun player to watch. He brings crowds. He brings attention. You saw all the players taking selfies with him. The players know. When you see other players respect certain players at their level, you know that player who they're all kind of looking up to and respecting or giving daps to is going to be a great player, because great players know other players. You saw that during the All-Star weekend this past week, or the All-Star week this past couple of days. And I wish Shohei had gone a little further in the home run derby. I thought that would have been a lot of fun. One of the problems he had actually was the pitcher who was pitching to him in the home run derby was a little bit off. So it wasn't like Shohei was getting the best pitches to take the ball deep either. So, you wonder if he had a better pitcher. I hate to put that much pressure on a pitching coach. So I apologize to the Angels pitching coach or whoever was up there throwing him pitches. But if he had a little better pitching, maybe he would have done a little bit better in the home run derby. But he's a draw. Shohei Ohtani is a draw. Showtime Shohei, and he's going to be like that the rest of the season. I can't wait to watch him down the stretch of the MLB season.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. In these batting competitions, you still need a good pitch to be able to hit it out of the park. And so, yeah, I mean, he possibly didn't get enough lollipops over the plate for him to go further on. But I'll tell you, the biggest thing for me that I took was you had Ken Griffey Jr. with a camera taking pictures of Shohei Ohtani. You had arguably one of the greatest players of all time being a fan of this young Japanese superstar. So that tells you how good he is, man. Right now, he's got the eyes of everybody right now, and arguably he deserves it, man. He is the best player in baseball. He's playing the best right now. He got the win on the mound in the All-Star game. Obviously we didn't get to see him go on in the home run derby, but like I said, he got on the mound and did his thing in the game and got the W, which he's been doing a lot for the Anaheim Angels or the Los Angeles Angels. I can't remember what they are anymore. But it's really one of those things where he clearly is the best player in baseball right now. There's really no discussion to be had. And it's in the field, it's on the mound, it's in the batter's box. And here's another little tidbit I found out about Shohei. He doesn't even do batting practice. The man does not do batting practice, okay? It's the equivalent of Steph Curry not having to do shoot around, okay? Or the equivalent of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton not doing track walks anymore, because they just know they don't need it. They're so good, they're just going to get in the car and do it. Steph Curry's just going to shoot threes all the time. Shohei is just going to get in the batter's box and rip you a double, a single, or a home run, man. He's hitting for power. He's getting on base. He's the best player in baseball right now. I really think he's not getting enough credit, though, from the American fans, from the American press. We're giving him a ton of credit. He deserves it. But I honestly think racism is alive in 2021 here, and people do not like America's pastime having the best player be an Asian player from Japan. And that is sad, man. That is sad. We've heard comments from Stephen A. Smith saying the best player in baseball shouldn't have an interpreter. Like, shut up, Stephen A. Smith. You sound like an idiot. Then, honestly, on local talk radio here in Boston, I heard guys questioning how long he can do it. What's the longevity of this Shohei kid? Can he make it through the season? Man, he's done so far through half the season, clearly been the best player in baseball, hit 32 home runs, great batting percentage, has got a bunch of wins on the mound, a 2.76 ERA. He can clearly continue to do it, man. People are sounding like idiots questioning this kid, man. And I really shouldn't say he's a kid. He's 27 years old, But for us, he's new to baseball, so it's new, and I love it. It's fresh. It's new. He's clearly the best player in baseball. People need to start giving him his props, man. I personally love him. We love him here in America. The young Japanese superstar, Shohei Ohtani, he deserves all the credit. I mean, we should be giving him more credit. But it's just really one of those things where, I don't know, man, I'm questioning why people aren't. I really am. And that's the only thing I can come back to is that he's a Japanese superstar.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the longevity, how long will he hold up the rest of the season? I think one of the reasons folks might be asking that is because we just haven't seen this in baseball before in a long time. We haven't seen it,
Ever.
I mean, Babe Ruth was the last one essentially to do it. We haven't seen a player with this much power, this good of a hitter, also be a standout pitcher. So I think, and one of the reasons is that the thought process was always, it takes so much to be a starting pitcher to go 6, 7, 8 innings, and then to be a great hitter the rest of the week. To have the other 4 days where you're just a great positional player. We're seeing it from Shohei, but we just haven't seen it before. So I don't necessarily mind the question, but I just think this kid can do it. I mean, he's 6'4". Yeah. He's like I said, he's got easy power. We just saw a great Red Sox player, Dustin Pedroia, retire, especially because of injuries, just couldn't do it anymore. Such a small guy that I remember watching him swing and being like, that guy puts so much into every swing that I wonder if that's going to, put some wear and tear on him. With Shohei, it's just easy power. It's easy for him to hit the ball out. I mean, it's not easy to hit a baseball, but it's compared to other players, he has that stroke. It's easy for him to lift the ball out of the ballpark. So I think he is going to hold up. I don't see any reason why he won't. And down the stretch of the season, pitchers oftentimes don't make the every fifth day start anyway. Sometimes they go to like a 6-man rotation towards the end of the year to give the pitchers an extra day of rest down the stretch, depending on what their team is doing down the stretch in the standings. So, if the Angels have a chance, they might to kind of give them a little bit of rest. They'll probably do that. I mean, teams are just smarter now. They're gonna do that for their players if need be. Sort of a load management type of thing in baseball. So we'll see if that happens. As far as the Stephen A. thing, that's just an old school way of thinking. Like, he has to speak English to be able to be promoted in Major League Baseball. I mean, it's 2021. We have ways of. I know it's not the easiest player to put in a Subway commercial. Okay, but that's not the only way to promote a guy. It's just, you can do it. You can have commercials where there's subtitles. You can have commercials where he just doesn't have to say a lot, but you see his face, you see him in the uniform. You can promote this guy. This isn't hard, and now businesses want things to be international. They want international business. They want things to grow globally. So to just think that, because he doesn't speak English well, isn't going to help his brand or whatever, I just think that's an old school way of thinking by Stephen A. Smith. He needs to reconsider this. And I know he apologized, but this is just not a good way of thinking. Things have changed so much just in the logistics of it that I just don't see where this has come from.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess why, like I said, I'm just questioning why so many people are questioning this guy. He clearly can do it. He has the talent to do it, and the longevity's there. And I just don't remember people questioning when, Mike Trout was out an MVP season. People were saying, can he continue this? Or like Mark McGwire, can he continue this? Like, no, this kid continue it. He's the real deal. He's legit, man, going forward. And honestly, the Angels are doing a good job of managing him. Generally a starting pitcher in a rotation throughout the season is probably going to start around 32 games. On the pace that Shohei's on right now, he's only going to start about 25 games. So they are managing him wisely right now because they know they don't want to burn him out on the mound because they want to use him in the batter's box. But, here's another thing. One guy that's not questioning him is the great, I want to even call him a future Hall of Famer, the pitcher Jeff Smoltz, former Atlanta Braves great, said, man, if you put this kid on the mound full time, he would clearly be the best pitcher in baseball. So you've got really one of the best pitchers all time saying this kid could be the best pitcher in baseball if he did it full time. But guess what? He's so talented. He can pitch and bat. Angels are doing a great job with managing him. Clearly I wish he was playing for the Red Sox, man, and we have to deal with him. But, I love this kid. I love Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese superstar, and I can't wait to see what he does in the second half of the season.
Yeah, we saw that tweet where he actually bumped into a cameraman and like apologized, and we saw him when all the pitchers were getting checked for foreign substances, and he was like got a smile on his face, was helping out the umps. Just seems like a nice guy too. So it's just this is a great guy to have as one of the faces of Major League Baseball, and they need to continue to promote him more and more. But speaking of the Red Sox, we're going to move on to topic number 7. The Sox snag a standout shortstop. The Red Sox had the 4th pick in the MLB draft, and a lot of folks wanted them to take Jack Leiter, the great pitcher, the standout pitcher from Vanderbilt. He actually went 2nd overall, but they actually selected Marcelo Mayer, who a lot of people thought was going to be the 1st overall pick in the draft in Major League Baseball, dropped all the way to 4. Somehow he fell to the Red Sox. So while we were all hoping for young pitching, Brandon, they got the best player in the draft, according to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, you can't complain about this move, honestly. I think it was really one of those draft day moves of being like, hey, we all know who the best guy is, and if he drops to us, we're taking him. And that's exactly what they did. This kid was arguably could have went 1, 2, or 3. All those other teams clearly said we need some different positions, a different position fill, a different roster fill, or we need that young pitcher. And so the Red Sox said, hey, man, this kid is the best player available. We're not going to pass on him going forward. He's 18 years old. He's still got his best days ahead of him. So I think this is a great pick. I love it. Obviously, he was meeting at All-Star break with Xander Bogaerts and having a meeting with him, and Xander was talking him up. So I think this is great, man, for the city. Great pick for the team. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this kid can do in a Red Sox uniform. And yeah, man, we got the shortstop of the future. And we're, when we think of shortstops, Nomar Garciaparra, you remember that guy? Well, this guy could be that next Nomar and maybe even better, because really that's the rumor I'm hearing about this kid right now, is that he is literally the best player available in the draft and the best player that anybody would want. So I'm really shocked that they let this kid drop to number 4. But hey, good for us. The Red Sox take him. Marcelo Mayer, he's coming to Boston. Look, he's got movie star looks too at 18. I'm actually jealous, man. Look at this kid. Movie star looks. He's a great athlete. He's a professional athlete. He's coming to one of the best cities in America, the cities of champions. He's playing for the Red Sox, a team with great history. This kid has got everything going for him right now, and I don't blame him. And he does look like Vinny Chase from Entourage. Producer Ben saying that. You're right. And so, man, I mean, this kid is everything that you want right now. And like I said, we talked about being marketable. This kid is definitely going to be marketable going forward for the Red Sox. A lot of people have been asking me, hey, do you think he goes to the major leagues right away? I do not think he goes there right away. He's 18 years old. If you bring him up to the majors right now, it's just far too much pressure on this young kid. Let him go down. Let him get his teeth cut in the minor leagues. He'll go down. He'll dominate in the minor leagues. Let him dominate for a year or two. Then you bring him up. He's going to come up. He's going to have a ton of confidence, and he's going to insert himself in the lineup and be there for years to come. So I think this is a great pick for the Boston Red Sox. I'm really excited to see what this kid can do going forward.
Yeah, we always talk about in so the NBA draft or the NFL draft, where sometimes you just got to let the draft board fall to you, where, if there's a player there that, you're sitting at a certain pick and you just take the best overall player. Well, that's what the Red Sox did. They want to bolster their pitching in their farm system, but they had this unbelievable shortstop drop to them at 4 that they never thought would be there. And I think a lot of Red Sox fans also are thinking, we have Xander Bogaerts, who's an all-star shortstop, who I think after next season has a player option. I think he's going to decline it because it's $20 million a year. He'll get a much bigger deal. So we'll see if he stays with the Red Sox, depending on, when he becomes a free agent and so forth. But then on top of that, they have another prospect, Jeter Downs, who they got, I believe, the Mookie Betts trade, who's been a solid minor league prospect as well at shortstop. Now, if you're the Red Sox and you're coming up with a trade deadline and you're in first place, Jeter Downs is now expendable. You can trade him now because you have this stud shortstop coming up right behind him in the minor leagues. So not only are you getting this awesome player in the draft who could be, and some people are comparing him to Corey Seager because he's taller. He's a big, tall, athletic shortstop who is at least going to have average power, 20 to 25 home runs a year, along with being a great fielding shortstop. But he could even have even more power depending on how much he fills out. He's only 18, so you don't even know how strong he's going to be in just a couple of years.
Yep.
But you also have a nice prospect that's now expendable that you can trade, and you're not going to worry about him, losing him, because you have another shortstop coming right up through the system. So now the Red Sox can go out and get pitching at the deadline because they have a Jeter Downs that they can trade, and then they can just keep Mayer down there in the system. Mayer is committed to USC right now, but I don't think the Red Sox would have picked him if they didn't think they could sign him, and they can offer him almost whatever he wants as far as being in the 4th pick in the draft. But I think this is just going to be awesome for the Red Sox. Another star that's going to come up through their system, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, coming up through the system and is going to turn himself into a star for the city. And I want to give a shout out to Xander Bogaerts too, for just, having that much confidence in his own game to be like, hey, I'm going to show this kid, some love. I'm going to show this kid some love and welcome him to the team, because I know I'm such a great player anyway. Like you said, I can go sign somewhere else if I need to. But you often see in professional sports when the young gun comes in that the guy who's currently got the job doesn't want to show him around, a.k.a. Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, which I don't blame Aaron Rodgers. I'd do the same thing, honestly. But Xander Bogaerts is totally different. He's welcoming this kid with open arms, and I think that's great for the team, great for the city going forward. And I think Marcelo Mayer, I think he's going to be a great player for this Red Sox team for years to come, and can't wait to see what he does on the diamond. But let's move on to NBA Finals. Okay, game number 4 going on right now as we speak, or just about to start. And the Bucks are looking to even the series here in game 4, but right now the Suns are in control, up 2-1. What do you think, Scott, going forward here, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pivotal game. I don't necessarily think that the Suns have to win this game, but I think if the Bucks really show up and put up an impressive performance tonight in game 4, they're going to have all the momentum, because then they have game 5 also in Milwaukee. And then if they win game 5 at home, they're going to be up 3-2 going back to Phoenix, and they just have to win one of the last 2 games. Giannis has been a beast the last 2 games. We keep, over the postseason, we've been talking about, he's been missing threes, and he had a couple of games where he missed a lot of free throws, and that's still a problem for him. But he plays so hard, and he's such a physical freak. We always, everybody calls him the Greek freak, obviously for good reason. He kind of is understanding what he has to do to make his team successful. The Bucks aren't as deep as the Suns are, and yet Giannis kind of knows that he has to do specific things: play good defense, rebound, block shots, score inside, run in transition. You don't have to fire up 10 threes a game to be successful offensively if you're Giannis. You do have to knock down a couple of mid-range jumpers. You got to hit your free throws. That's his big thing. He's got to hit his free throws. But I'm sure he hits his free throws much better at home than on the road. So Giannis, has been unreal. So if I'm the Suns, I want to win game 4. I think game 4 is going to be pivotal for the Suns. If they lose game 4, I really think they're in trouble. I think this would be a tough series for the Suns to pull out. But because of the 2-3-2 setup they have in the NBA Finals, anything can happen. Series change so much in the NBA. But game 4, I think, is going to be so critical to this series. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch tonight.
Yeah, no, you're definitely calling it right. It's such a critical moment here for the Bucks. It's a must-win. And people are like, a must-win in game 4? Yes, it's a must-win. Because if Phoenix goes up 3-1, the series is pretty much over. We've only seen one team in history come back, most recently especially, come back from a 3-1 deficit. Obviously, the Cleveland Cavaliers that year when they came back to beat the Warriors. But it's just really one of those things that often doesn't happen. And this team doesn't have LeBron James and Kyrie Irving on it. And I know Giannis is good and Middleton's good and Drew Holiday's good, but they're not as good as those 2 players. So I think if they go down 3-1, this is pretty much done. So I think they have to win. This is a must win for them tonight. And I think they can. I think right now what you're seeing is home court is being served. And for honestly, I mean, that often happens, right? In the NBA playoffs, home court gets served. It's when you can win one game on the road that you really take charge of the series. So whoever can really do that, I think, will take charge right now. So if Phoenix wins tonight on the road, they'll get that done. They'll take charge. They'll be up 3-1. But if the Bucks continue to just serve up home court, as I call it, and win at home court, it'll be a 2-2 going into that game 5, which will also be in Milwaukee. And it'll be a good chance for, like you said, for them to go up 3-2 at that point and then put the pressure on the Suns. I personally like the old school way when it was 2-2, 1-1-1, because then you really got to see the best games. Home court was kind of thrown out the window after game 4. And it was just really this slugfest. It became a whole new series, kind of like a best of 3. And you still might see that, but obviously, like I said, it's 3 games in a row in Milwaukee. And so Phoenix might be thinking, if we can steal one, obviously we're going to put ourselves in the driver's seat. But hey, if we lose all 3 games, we've held court. We've held home court. We're going to get to go home and still have a chance to win the finals, right? In a game 6 and a game 7. So it's really one of those things where I don't know. I mean, it's still anyone's game here, anyone's series. I'm still picking the Phoenix Suns. I still think they have the deeper team. I'm still expecting Chris Paul and Devin Booker to have big games, maybe even tonight, to take charge of this series. But yeah, Giannis is doing a great job of carrying his team right now, along with Middleton and Drew Holiday. And we talked about this in the past. You have maybe the 3 best players against the best team right now. And right now, it's just like I said, people are serving home court. It's really that one big deciding game. I don't think we've seen it happen yet, but it could be tonight.
Yeah, this also could be the night that DeAndre Ayton kind of grows up. I mean, he's been impressive so far this year. He's had such a bounce back from first half of the season. He wasn't spectacular, and then he really came on towards the end of the year. He's been good in the playoffs. Now he's got to be a player who, Chris Paul, no matter where he is going to play hard. He's going to be a baller. Devin Booker's going to be a baller, whether he's on the road or he's at home. The role players tend to play better at home than on the road. That's why they're role players. Ayton's got to decide, he doesn't have to score 40 points or 30 points to be a great player out there for the Suns. He's got to play well on the road for them to take a road game against the Bucks in the finals. And then that's when Phoenix is going to take charge of this series. They won the first 2 games, and the second game, they didn't necessarily – it wasn't the most convincing win in the world. I mean, there was a couple of plays where they could have got a couple of calls that could have gone either way. Giannis had a huge game despite, the loss. So, Giannis comes back in game 3, has another 40-plus point game, a ton of rebounds, so forth. Ayton's got to come up big tonight, I think. If Ayton come up big and Phoenix wins this game 4, I think they win the series. I think if Phoenix loses this game to Milwaukee, then it's going to be tough for them. Because, like you said, that 2-3-2 format, I think it sort of favors the team that has the middle 3 games. So if you think about it, the reason they used to do this is, especially in the 80s, it was like the Lakers versus the Celtics. And with the old way of traveling, they had to travel West Coast and East Coast all the time. So when you go back and forth like that with the old flights, even in the 80s, which wasn't that long ago, but it was just different than it is now. Now you have private jets. I mean, it's just easier to move around. You don't need to do the 2-3-2 format anymore. So I agree with you. 2-2-1-1-1, I think, is the best way to do it. But they still haven't changed it back. So we'll see what happens if Adam Silver decides to bring that up in the next CBA, or the competition committee rather. So we'll see what happens there. But I think if Ayton comes up big in game 4, then I think this could be a big game for the Suns. So we'll see what happens with the young big fella for Phoenix. Moving on to topic number 9, Team USA underwater. The Team USA men's basketball team that's going to be competing in the Olympics lost their first 2 exhibition games of the exhibition season. They lost to both Nigeria and Australia. Not necessarily powerhouses in international basketball, to say the least. A lot of people were surprised. A lot of people were shocked. I think it was late last night, they actually killed Argentina with their first exhibition win of the season, 108-80. So, I'm not going to get too upset over the USA basketball team losing a couple exhibition games. You have guys that are NBA players that just came off a tough season. where a lot of, we've been talking about the schedule this whole time. Brandon, what do you think about the struggles at the beginning of this Team USA sort of exhibition season before the Olympics?
I'm not going to get upset yet because, like you said, the tournament actually hasn't started. This is technically like preseason. We're getting our feet wet. But I got to admit, it's a little embarrassing to lose to Nigeria. I mean, like, Nigeria? Like, really? This isn't soccer. This is basketball. We should have stomped them out. So I'm telling you, that's a little embarrassing. Australia, they're actually not that bad. They're generally a pretty good international basketball team, and they usually show up in the FIBA tournaments or in the Olympics and have good teams. So honestly, I think that was one where the United States just played down and Australia played up and won. And if you do that, Australia is good enough to be able to beat you. But losing to Nigeria, man, I think that was sad, honestly. And I think Nigeria has now got a ton of confidence going into the tournament. And it's like you're wondering what the Americans are thinking. Like, do they have much confidence going into the tournament? I hope they still do, because we need it and they need to kind of wake up. And that's one of those things, especially as a coach, we always say, hey, getting that wake up call early is a lot better than getting it late in the tournament and losing to Nigeria when it counts. So, hey, you've now gotten your wake up call that the international game has changed. And we've been saying this for years. International basketball is catching up at a staggering rate. And we're the ones that have set the stage for it, okay? We made NBA basketball so great, and America made basketball so great. Remember, we created this game. This is our game. Created right here in Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts. But the rest of the world loves the game so much that they are playing it at a staggering rate and catching up at a staggering rate. And they're putting a lot of effort and a lot of resources into their international teams. And we're just starting to see this now, like I said, in the FIBA tournaments and in the Olympics. So it's not shocking to me to see these international teams continuing to get better, but I'm still shocked to see the United States lose to a team like Nigeria. But I hope, like I said, that's the wake-up call they need going forward. And I'm sure they weren't playing their normal rotation that they're going to be doing in the gold medal tournament. I honestly think they were playing a lot of guys and maybe a deeper bench in that game, giving everybody some run. Because like you said, they're coming off of a tough season and they want to see what they got going forward. But I think going into the tournament, I've always said this United States coaching team, coaching staff has always been amazing. Always been amazing. I've got a ton of confidence in them going forward. So I think they'll shorten down the roster here, and not saying obviously people aren't going to get taken off the team. It's going to be that they're going to sit on the bench, man. You're not going to see everybody playing in the tournament. You might get a couple of minutes here or there, and you'll have to make your best of those minutes. But I think they're just going to shorten down the lineup to maybe guys like that you're looking on the left there, Kevin Durant and some superstars out there, and just really lean on them throughout the tournament. But I think this is one of those things where I said it even going weeks back on this show. If this United States team comes out in the first round, has an impressive victory, starts off hot, they'll be good going forward. If they come out in that first game and they're in a battle, then I don't know, man. It's going to be a struggle possibly going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think, going back to what I was saying before, when you see them in those first two games, it's been a long 2 seasons. They had the bubble, the short off season, the condensed schedule. Guys like Durant, even Tatum, he had a first round playoff knockout by Durant in the Nets. These guys they're still kind of recovering from the season, a season like they've never had before. So I think,
Sure.
to come out in the first 2 exhibition games and not essentially, go balls to the wall in these games, or, play with the crazy enthusiasm in an international exhibition game. Nigeria was jacked up to play that game. Anytime an international team that doesn't necessarily have, it's not like they're Spain or one of those some of these other great, France and some of these other international teams that have really good international teams that can be competitive with USA. This Nigerian team knew this could be their one shot to actually, take it to the Americans, and that's what they did. And I'm not too worried about it. The fact that they beat Argentina, who has a good program. Manu Ginobili played for Argentina for a long time. That's a nice win to beat them by 28 in another exhibition game. So I'm not too worried about it. I know what you're saying when it's like, this is kind of embarrassing. The United States is where basketball was born, especially here in Massachusetts. But, I'm just not going to be too concerned right now. They're also, I think Drew Holiday is supposed to be on this team. I can't remember if there's anybody else who's playing in the NBA Finals who's going to be on this team. But Holiday is going to be more of a role player for this team. He's a ball handler, really good defender, so he's going to help with probably what they're lacking. Right now they got, Tatum and Durant and guys who are just scorers. So when you get more of a defensive guy, a guy who's a better role player like a Drew Holiday, I think that'll help too.
I think another key point to bring up is these international teams generally are practicing together months and months and months and months. It's like the only thing because they're not playing in professional leagues. Obviously, these NBA players are coming fresh off the NBA season, and now they're just starting to practice together and create their own team chemistry with Team USA. And that's only been going on for a few weeks. So hopefully over these next few weeks before the games officially start, they'll get more chemistry together. They'll get their legs underneath them a little bit more conditioning. And I think they'll be ready to go game one. But it's like I said, they got to come out and they got to start fast. Man, because it's nobody's going to be cutting them slack. And you brought that up. Everybody comes jacked up to play the United States. So, man, they have to come out jacked up themselves and set the tone in every game. And here's my thing. And all these teams going back, even back to the Dream Team, you had Bird, you had Jordan, you had Magic Johnson, guys that you could go to that would take over the tournament. Most recently on the Redeem Team, it was LeBron and Kobe. On this team, you know who I'm calling for it to be. Dame time, baby. Dame time all day long. I want to see Dame time, Dame Lillard take over this United States team and bring us to the gold medal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, we mentioned this before. It's going to be fun to watch them. There's so many stars in this team. There's so much depth of talent in the NBA, even especially on the amount of American players who, the international NBA has really gotten huge where there's a lot of great international players, including, Luka Doncic and some of the other international guys. But there's so much. I mean, look at this team. There's so much depth in this team. They're going to get Devin Booker later, too. And I think guys like Bam Adebayo are going to be big for them. And, like I said before, as a Celtics fan, I'm looking forward to seeing Jason Tatum be almost kind of more of a role player himself, kind of step back, not always have the ball in his hands because you're not with Kevin Durant. Yep. And you're not going to have the ball in your hands when James Harden's out there. We know that. So, be more of a role player, be a rebounder, be a guy who's going to be cutting a lot, being more of an off-the-ball player. So I think guys like him are just going to have to get used to that, and that's going to take some time too. So these guys are going to be fun to watch, and it's not going to be a problem. They're going to be very successful in the Olympics. It's just going to take a little time for them to gel, like you said.
Yeah, a little more chemistry going forward, and you bring up a great point. Like with Tatum, I think that's just going to be more experience he can bring back to Boston and on the hard court here in Boston. But let's move on to the final topic of the night, the NFL QB carousel. Couple of QBs still deciding, hey, are they going to hang it up this season and kind of hold out, or are they going to report to their teams? We're only a few weeks away from mandatory camp starting, so these questions have got to start to be talked about at this point.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's funny. I think with especially with the Packers, I don't know. I don't think Rodgers is going anywhere. I really don't. I don't see him getting traded. Like some folks have mentioned the 49ers because he's a Northern California guy. If I'm the Packers, I'm going to trade him to the 49ers. The first thing I'm asking for is Trey Lance. And that's not going to happen. So, what are you going to do? If Rodgers threatens to hold out, okay, well, whatever trade you're going to make, you're probably not getting a quarterback in return that can bring you to the Super Bowl. So why don't you just, stand your ground? If he's going to hold out, okay, then they'll develop Jordan Love and they'll go from there. And then, if there's a trade maybe early in the season, I mean, if I'm the Packers, I'm not showing my hand. I'm just going to wait on this. I don't think Rodgers is going anywhere. I think after a while, he's going to figure out, there's not necessarily a better situation for him lying somewhere else. I'm not really sure what other team who, a lot of teams would want Aaron Rodgers, but they don't want to give up what they're going to have to give up for him. Are the Patriots going to trade for Aaron Rodgers? No, they're going to have to trade Mac Jones to get him. So, that's not going to happen. And I just don't see him going anywhere. Deshaun Watson is kind of like a weird. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Things have been quiet with the off the field stuff with Watson. Who knows what's going to happen there. I'm not sure what the next date as far as the law and how this whole thing is going to kind of unfold over the next few months, or even if it's going to happen during the season or at the end of the season or whatever. So, but the thing is, Watson doesn't have any leverage right now. Before he wanted to get out, now it's like, I don't know how many teams are going to want to trade for him with this thing looming over him, these sexual assault suits. So he's in a kind of weird place, too, where he doesn't have a lot of leverage. So I don't know if the Texans are going to trade him. Nick Caserio, who's now the GM, has learned under Bill Belichick, and he's not going to necessarily just trade him for peanuts. So, it's an interesting spot for both these quarterbacks. And I don't know if this is going to get settled this offseason. I really don't, because it's just both of them are in such unique situations where I don't think they're easily tradable. And like I mentioned, neither of them have really huge leverage in their situations right now.
Yeah, I agree. And producer Ben, he ain't going to the Eagles. Nice one. Nice try. I think the biggest thing is the Eagles are already sold on Jalen Hurts and potentially the future there with Hurts. So I don't think they're trading for Watson. I could be wrong, but I think if they, like you said, if they're trading for the Eagles, then Hurts is going to be part of that deal. Because like you said, any team that they're trading with that has a young QB, they're going to want that young QB in return for Watson. And I'll get back to the Watson. Let's go to Aaron Rodgers at first. I think that's more of a clear, cut and dry situation. And I don't think Rodgers is going anywhere. I think you're right there. I just think he's continuously putting himself more in the driver's seat to just control the organization more. And I've been saying that all along and calling more of the shots. And that's what he's wanted to do. He wants more leverage with the team and the roster because he wants to try to win a Super Bowl. He's been close these last few years. They've only been a few pieces away. I think Aaron wants to have some say on those pieces being filled so he can go try to win the championship. I don't understand what the problem is with Green Bay and why they just keep fumbling this situation. Just get it done. You have arguably one of the best quarterbacks of all time on your roster currently. The fans love him. Everybody loves this guy. And let's bring up the two situations of why Aaron's unhappy. They, first off, were idiots and drafted Jordan Love like you're going to draft a replacement when you've currently got one of the best quarterbacks in the game. That was stupid. Upset your starting quarterback. And then secondly, the contract negotiations. He wanted a contract extension to prove that they were committed to him, and that stalled out. At this point, man, if I'm Green Bay, here's what I do. I trade Jordan Love and get like a 4th round pick or something and say, Jordan, sorry, buddy, you're out of here. And Aaron, this is proving we are committed to you. We're shipping this kid out the door. Okay. And then secondly, I'm backing up the Brinks truck and I'm giving this guy a 4 or 5 or 6 year deal with all the money he wants so he can come in, report to camp, feel comfortable and confident, and come back and lead my team possibly to the Super Bowl because we've been so close these last few years. So, man, Green Bay, wake up and get this done. Those are the two moves that you need to do. Honestly, I don't think they're going to trade Jordan Love, but that's what I would do, and I would solve that situation really fast. With Deshaun Watson, like I said, yeah, not really clear cut and dry. I will still point out nothing has been proven in the court of law yet on any of these allegations, and the longer it goes on, to me, the more it looks like these allegations are just false. You're not hearing anything more about them, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. Well, guess what? The smoke has disappeared. It's clear now. It's completely gone. Deshaun Watson's just hanging out, playing quiet, doing the smart thing because that's what he is. He's a smart quarterback, smart young man. He's just playing the scenes, behind the scenes, and then he's going to make a decision whether he wants to report or whether or not he's going to sit out in this season. And I still think all the power is in Deshaun Watson's hands because, like I said, I think eventually it's going to come out that all these allegations were false. People are going to have to apologize to Deshaun Watson, and he's going to be back in the driver's seat being one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL and having a chance to play wherever he wants. So I think if I'm Deshaun Watson, I strongly think about sitting out this year And that's because I'm young, man. I'm young. I'm a young stud. I still got plenty of years left in me. I'm not like Aaron Rodgers that possibly only has 5 or 6 years left. And obviously that's saying a lot. But Deshaun Watson possibly has 10 years left or more. So if I'm Deshaun Watson, I've got all the power right now. And I certainly don't want to play for that Texans squad. They've got trash at this point. They just keep getting worse by the day. The coaching staff, I think, is not good. They try to bring in a pony show of a coach to try to make me happy. That clearly didn't work. So if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm still got all the power right now, and you might see him sit out. But I think that's a situation that we have to watch more closely going forward. I think the Aaron Rodgers situation is going to shuffle itself out over these next few weeks.
Yeah, I think going back to with the Packers, it'd be tough to trade Jordan Love for just a 4th-round pick. I know he hasn't shown anything. His worth as a prospect, as soon as you get drafted, and then you're back up for a year, your draft stock or your asset stock, I guess you could say, has really gone down. I mean, he's not even in Jimmy Garoppolo here in New England was not an asset to trade until he started a season for a couple of games when Brady was suspended for Deflategate, which was really stupid, but we'll save that for another show. But that's why he was a tradable asset, because teams saw him start a couple of games and he was very impressive in those wins. Whereas with Jordan Love, he hasn't started a game. He hasn't had to perform, and so he's got no, there's not much value there. So you really can't trade him. I see what you're saying, that I would show to Rodgers, hey, we're committed to you. I think the Packers, what they just need to do is get in a room with them and say, this is what our plan is during training camp. Teams are going to cut guys because of that salary cap structure this year, where the salary cap didn't grow as much as everybody thought it would because of last year's pandemic and so forth. And even though a team like the Patriots had a lot of free agency money, other teams didn't. Other teams were looking to cut bait. So some guys are going to get cut during camp just because of their salaries. Then maybe, Green Bay is keeping an eye on some players saying, Aaron, if this guy gets cut, which we think he might, we're going to bring him in. If this guy over here gets cut, we're going to bring him in. This defensive player, this tight end, this, an additional receiver for you. This is what we're planning on doing. And if Rodgers likes what he hears, most guys don't necessarily want to leave unless they're miserable and hate, their front office and hate the coach and all that kind of thing, which is sort of where Watson is right now. But Rodgers doesn't dislike Flynn. I mean, he seems to get along with Flynn pretty well. It was Mike McCarthy who was the one he didn't get along with. So, he seems to like Flynn. He's got Devontae Adams. They have a solid defense. They've got some young, good defensive players. So, they still have a shot in the NFC. So I don't see, Rodgers necessarily going anywhere. This might be a little more just to try to gain a little leverage going out to Hawaii, wherever he was, being the host of Jeopardy and so forth. So, but like you mentioned, the Watson thing, it's an interesting situation. We're going to see how it unfolds over the next few months. So we're talking about the NFL in July, but we love football, and you know what? Training camp's coming up not too long. So we have the Olympics and NFL training camp coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to pay attention to. Folks, that's going to do it for our sports this week, our show this week here on Comeback Sports. Once again, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Comeback Sports YouTube channel. All the videos from Comeback Sports are going to be filtered to your subscription. When you subscribe, you can just go to your subscription page. It'll all be filtered there. The live shows, all the segments that are cut up that our producer Ben Kudo does a great job doing, they'll all be there, and you can check them out. It's really easy. You can do it on your phone, your tablet, computer. Make sure you subscribe. Also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at the bottom of the screen. And throughout the show today, we had that call-in number. We probably didn't mention it enough, especially myself, but when we do a live show, give us a call. Check us out. We had a young man by the name of James Merlin last week who gave us a call, gave us a great NBA question. So anybody else who wants to give us a question, give us a call, give us a comment. If you don't like what we're saying about a topic, call in too. We'd love to debate with you. That's what this stuff is about. So make sure you give us a call on that number as well. Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off here tonight?
Well, I know James is watching Game 4 right now, so I really want to hear his analysis next week of the NBA Finals. But also, Chiellini, man, I'm going to drag you down on site the Azzurri with their cheap win. But yeah, Chiellini, watch your back, man. I'm dragging you down on site.
Brandon, you got to be careful. He's Italian. La Cosa Nostra could be coming after you, buddy. Just be careful. I don't want to see anything happen to you, my friend, okay? He's Italian. Just remember that. Folks, thanks so much for joining us here on Comeback Sports. We'll see you next time. Have a good week.
Coming for you, Chiellini.